Hi everyone, this is Rosie, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to add side D-ring connectors to any pouch. So let's get started. Here are a few of the items that you're going to need to make your D-ring connectors. I have some double-sided stick tape in two widths, 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 inch. I have a tool for punching my holes. I will be using a friction pen for demonstration purposes. Remember that while this ink will disappear with heat, it will always come back with cold. I have a point turner, and you will need a tool for setting your rivets. You can use a hand tool or you can use a rivet press, which is what I will be using in the video. I have a pouch here that's already in progress. This is not going to be a tutorial on how to make the pouch, only how to do the side connectors. So of course I have my rivets here. I have two D-rings. I will be making 3/4 inch wide connectors. First, let's just go over the pouch just a little bit so that you know where everything stands. Here is the pouch right now. I did use a number 5 zipper, so the zipper tape was 1 1/4 inches wide, and I always set my zippers in 3/4 of an inch. So it's set in 3/4 of an inch on this side and 3/4 of an inch on this side. And I do have a zipper tab here at the end of the zipper. This fabric right here for the bands are marine grade vinyl. I used 100% cotton quilting fabric, and I interfaced it with a layer of woven fuse 2 and Decoville Light for the exterior, and for the interior I also used 100% cotton quilting fabric, and that has been interfaced with woven fuse 2. After I set in the zipper on both the exterior and the interior, I top stitched around these 3 sides. I do not top stitch all the way out to the ends. And I do have a video showing my method for how to create no dent size, which I will link to in the description below the video. Now, for the connectors, you can really use whatever you want. For this particular one, I'm just going to use the marine grade vinyl. And I have a piece here which we'll talk about in a minute. Or you could just use some strips of leather, or if you prefer, you can sandwich 2 pieces of cork or vinyl together and leave the edges raw and then maybe put on some edge coat paint. But what I'm going to do is make a connector that looks like this, and I'll show you how I created that now. I'm starting off with a piece of vinyl that's 4 1/2 inches long by 1 1/2 inches high, and this will create a connector that will fit a 3/4 inch D-ring. So I'm just going to turn it over to the wrong side, and I want to measure 3/4 of an inch down the center of the piece of fabric. So that's the center mark right there. And then I'm going to take a piece of the 1/2 inch wide tape and lay it right over that center mark. Then I'm going to burnish it down with my point turner just to help it stick. And then I'm going to remove the paper to expose the other side of the adhesive. After you've taken off the paper, you're going to take each long edge and fold it right to that line that you marked on the center mark. And stick those edges down. And then you'll do the same thing on the other side. Take that long edge and let those 2 long edges meet right there in the middle. Then I'm going to take my point turner and really burnish this. And now that I have that done, I'm just going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from each long edge, and I'm going to do that off camera. Now that that top stitching is done, I just want to measure in 3/4 of an inch from each side. Of course, you would do this with a chalk marker or something that's going to remove easily from your material. Then I'm going to take a couple of pieces of that 1/2 inch double-sided tape, and I'm going to stick a piece on each side here. And then I'm going to burnish it down a little bit. And then I'll again remove that paper to release the sticky tape on the other side. Once I have that released, I'm going to fold right back on that line there, that 3/4 inch mark, press it down well, And then you do the same exact thing on the other side. And press it down well. Now you should have a piece that measures about 3 inches. Now, if you're going to use a piece of leather, you would cut it 3/4 of an inch wide and 3 inches long this way. There's no need to fold over the leather because you're going to use this piece of leather just as it is. 3/4 of an inch high by 3 inches long. Now I'm going to turn this over, and I want to find the center of this section right here. So I'm just going to put my ruler down and draw a little diagonal going both ways. So from corner to corner in this direction and from corner to corner in this direction. And you're going to do this on both sides. And that, where the X is, where it meets in the middle, that's the center of that piece right there. Then once you have that center mark, you can go ahead and take your hole punch, whatever you're using, and line it up right on that center cross mark there, and you're going to press a hole. And do that on both sides. So now I have both of the connectors all ready. I'm going to set those aside and work on the pouch for a minute. Now, in order to put on those side connectors, we need to sew up the sides a bit, but we're not going to sew them all the way. So we'll open up this zipper a little bit, and you're going to put the exterior sides together and your lining sides together. And then you want to match up the edges. I like to completely open my seams here on both sides. And then I will match up the seams and put in a few clips. Make sure everything's nice and lined up there. And then when I sew this, I'm going to start about 2 inches down from this seam right here. So I'll start around here. I'm using a 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to sew up over the seam, and then I'll only sew about 1 inch down on the lining side. So you want to clip both sides together and sew those sides just the way I showed you, and I'm going to do that off camera. I just finished sewing those 2 seams. So again, you're going to do a few inches up on the exterior side and then about 1 inch down on the lining side. I went a little bit more. It's okay. It's not going to be a problem. And here it is on this side here. Now, what you want to do is turn this right side out. And you want to leave it where the lining is sticking up this way. You don't want to put the lining down into the pouch. And then you want to pull out your corners. So here's this side here. And on this side you can close up the zipper just a little bit. And then you're going to push everything up here. So I just take my point turner, I get in there and I just push up that tab. And then you can go in here, in between these layers, inside here, and push up on that side so that it's coming out nicely and not being dented in at all. Okay. And again, your lining needs to be sticking out of the top. Then you're going to take the pouch and fold those sides together with the seam laying there on the top. Make sure that your lining's out of the way. And then you're going to take one of the connectors with the D-ring on it. You'll fold the connector in half, so that the D-ring is at the center of that connector. And then you're going to place it onto the band here, or at the top of your pouch if you don't have a band, with the connector folded completely in half. And you want it to be fairly snug. And then you're going to take a pen or a marker, whatever, and you're going to mark where these holes are on each side of the band. Make sure that you get it centered properly. And now I have a mark here and a mark on this side. Mine are a little bit off center. I'm going to redo them. But at this point now, once those marks are completely centered, then you're going to punch the holes here and here. And you're only punching through the vinyl, through this top band here. You're not punching through the lining at all. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Going to make sure that that's pushed out nicely. And then you'll take that band again, the connector, and place it over the band and mark the placement for those holes once more. Then you're going to take your tool to punch the holes. I find that it's easier to put my tool in through the lining side. So I just place it in here. I want to make sure that that lining is completely pulled out of the way so that I don't make any holes in my lining, and then I just punch the hole. Then I can do the same thing on the other side. Reach in with my tool. Make sure that my lining is not caught underneath, and punch my hole. Then you'll do the same exact thing on the other side. After you punch the holes, you can go ahead and take your connector. You're going to put a rivet through the connector, and then through one of the holes that you punched here. You'll put the cap on the other side of it. I like to do one side at a time. Then after that rivet is in place, you're just going to take the piece and put it in the little cradle there for the snap. Line everything up and then set your rivet in place. So now we have one side on, and then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take the rivet, stick it through the, oh, first make sure that you put on your D-ring, don't forget that. And then you'll stick the rivet in. And then you'll put it through the hole in the band. Set the cap on the other side. And then place it underneath your rivet press and set the rivet in place. In some ways it is a lot easier to do this with one of the little hand tools. And now that connector's all set, and you can see once that's completely sewn closed how nicely that connector sits in there. Then you just go ahead and do the same exact thing on the other side. Now, to punch the hole on the other side, you do have the zipper pull in the way, but it's really not a problem. You just make sure that that lining is out of the way and then punch your hole. And then do the one on the other side. And again, it's easier to go through the lining side of the pouch to do this. It's a little bit of finagling, but it's really very doable. And just feel with your fingers to make sure that the lining is not in the way of the cutter. So there we have our holes. Then you're going to take the connector, put the rivet through the hole, and then put the rivet through the hole in the band. You'll put the cap on the other side. And then you're going to set it into the rivet press. Again, a little bit of finagling, but very doable. Once you get it seated in there properly, then you're going to press the rivet into place. And then you'll go ahead and do the other side exactly the same way. Now I have all 4 rivets securely in place, so now I'm going to take it and turn it with the wrong side out. Once you have it with right sides together, then you can go ahead, clip around your pouch, and sew it closed the way you normally would for whatever pattern that you're using. And I'm going to go ahead and sew mine off camera. I finished sewing around the pouch and I left my opening. The D-ring connectors are completely out of that seam line, so they do not obstruct the seam line at all. Now I'm just going to go ahead and trim everything and turn everything right side out, and you'll be done with your D-ring connectors. And here's our finished pouch with the D-ring connectors installed. I've added a crossbody strap. Here's what it looks like from the top, and this is what it looks like from the opposite side. Well, I do hope that you found this technique helpful and that you might want to give it a try. It's really not difficult at all. I want to truly thank everyone who has supported me by liking my videos and subscribing to my channel. I really truly do appreciate all of you, and I love reading your comments. If you're not already a subscriber, I would love to have you as one, so please like and subscribe.